Alright, I went to that the Owl place, the ALE place, and I came back. No drink because they, you know, interrupted my filming, which is, you know, I'm gonna put this on here because they didn't say nothing on the doors or on either door, you know, all 4 doors. Didn't say nothing on it. When I walked in the building, the lady seen me filming. She didn't say nothing. She actually said it's allowed if you listen. And I walked in, and then the guy was like, "Hey, we can't film." So I closed it down, and I was like, "Well, kind of ruined my uppity up mood." So I went to the. I did end up going to the bar, and I asked them if they had, you know, an ATM. They said no. Go over to the liquor store. So I was like, okay, I could take that 2 kind of ways. And I rolled out, came back to Panera Bread. So now, funny. The whole thing happened with the Homeland Security thing, and now I found this thing online with the Homeland Security. Here, let me pull it up. It's it was actually live. It still might be live. It is live right now. PBS NewsHour. It is. Watch live. Senate Homeland Security Committee holds hearing on COVID-19 medical supply chain. So I'm gonna like that. I'm gonna open up the, well, see, usually they have the little 3 dots where you can open up the transcript. So
address these threats, and I'm gonna hopefully we'll never.
I'm just gonna jump through the video real quick, and whatever stands out is what stands out.
Shortly.
Threats often
including the U.S. medical community
higher. Lack of supply to shocks that might occur.
Expected disruptions leading to decreased supply. I've listed in my report 4 or 5 actions. One is we should have a defined process and infrastructure for analyzing, predicting, and managing, preventing shortages in critical medications. Second, we should have an ongoing in-depth map of the U.S. drug supply.
The COVID-19 pandemic spread in April and May of last year. We know the first responders and PPE shortages.
Are as big and as large as 10 years because they know these are essential production chains.
As you know, I've had a great frustration with our Department of Defense in this area, and in particular their refusal to issue those long-term contracts, which I never understood.
Moving forward, how can we ensure that the stockpile has an adequate and up-to-date supply of unexpired personal protective equipment at all times so that it can adequately respond to public health emergencies across the country?
The pricing mechanism and the pricing signals of the private sector. Now, obviously, during COVID, we had a breakdown of government. Started with not replenishing our national stockpile after 2009. So I'm not really looking to government to solve this problem very effectively, but we need government help in terms of working with the private sector. The private sector obviously was not prepared for this because everything's on just in time. So they're going to have to be incentivized in certain areas to carry inventory. So Mr. Hanford, real quick, rather than have government agencies stockpile amounts and then have to come up with a whole new inventory system, computer system to keep track of expiration dates, why not spend money and contract with the private distribution system to boost their levels of inventory to the level we need for national stockpile? It's going to automatically be integrated into their current system. So wouldn't that make a whole lot more sense than trying to set up a whole new system?
So to answer your question, Senator Johnson, that's definitely
For the world, including China. So we have domestic manufacturers who can be globally competitive.
Due to, of course, disruption in the supply chain, have on your ability to treat patients, number one. What's the impact when there's only one source, number two, and how do you, if there's a disruption?
Medical equipment for which there was perhaps not an extraordinary surge in demand during this COVID-19 pandemic, but for which there might be in other plausible public health crises, so that we...
Dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And visibility and understanding of what the scope of the problem is the first step in order to try to solve this. So that's the intent of that legislation, and we're going to be working on reintroducing it, and certainly would welcome 8th at 5 p.m.
I think we were too dependent on China, yes or no?
Yes.
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 Okay, that's...
Dominant critical purchasers of PPE in non-pandemic times. We must centralize U.S. government contracting processes and standardize vetting procedures. We need to continue to deploy the Defense Production Act to shore up the textile industrial base from raw materials to end products for all essential items, including PPE, and work closely with the U.S. industry on advancing those key investments.
Needed. Even before the pandemic, though, drug shortages were a serious problem and recurring problem with a web of factors in an opaque drug production and supply system.
To understand their challenges in obtaining PPE,
University Hospital is New Jersey's only state hospital and one of only 962 state and local government-run community hospitals in the United States. We are the level 1 trauma center for the densely populated
with witness testimony at this point.
If there's disruption.
As to what we need and make sure that we have to have that in our country.
So that's another government source that I use. The Senate Homeland Security Committee holds hearing on COVID-19 medical supply chain. So supply chain is the key word there. Medical is the essential part. Put them together, you have a medical, and then you have a supply and demand. Now I gotta make sure that there's licenses that come with the whole medical part. But if you have, the private sector, like they said, that's the third. You sit back here, and then you combine these two, and then that's how you distribute without no licenses, except for a business license. Now here, just so I'm, crystal clear about that. Let me, the live has concluded, so.
First of all, a lack of supply market.
Had 70% or 28 out of 4.
Our strong over-reliance on China.
Sometimes our healthcare heroes are the only folks by the side of our patients as they were.
The In America Act, which you mentioned we introduced and was passed in the committee just last week.
For the stock.
Accounted for.
Thank you very much.
Well, and that's partly why we got caught.
Be competitive. We just need to send them a strong demand signal.
There's also done, however,
Of identifying the threats that could affect the drug supply system.
Who are desperately seeking people.
Getting medications for folks on ventilators.
Ensure that they meet the.
Now this ain't new information. Like I said, they put it up online, and it's just how you use the intelligence you were born with to chop it up, run it back, chop it up, and play it forward. So the little in-betweens, like I said, like I'm a musician, and they talked about 2009, 2010, I went to college for music production and engineering. So, we have a grid line that we follow when it comes to music, a grid line. So when we follow that grid line, it's the same thing that applies here.
As a pro bono consultant with the DoD Joint Acquisition Task Force, I provided advice, market intelligence, and analysis for the supply of PPE, ventilators, and pharmaceuticals. I also...
All right.